Good morning, Friday, April 5th. It is a phenomenal day here in the sweltering heat of Florida, and I am joined by the Peaky Blinders version of Rick Blaze with his bonnet on top. Rick, good morning. Top of the
All
morning to
my
you, lad.
freaks, all my freaks out there. It's Friday.
And you're looking awfully freaky with that.
What's up? Thank you, Marsh. I think there's a compliment coming from you.
Yeah, just it's very voluminous, and you look like you're about to go play a front nine here once the sun rises and the crows start crowing. So, or the roosters
And a
start
back and
crowing.
a back nine. I'm gonna play a front nine and a back nine.
Yeah, you got the knee-high socks going too, I'm sure of it. A lot of activity last night in SWBA. I feel the need to start in Houston because that's
Of
just where I
course.
want to go. And that's
Of
where the
course you
Golden
do.
State Warriors, surprise, surprise,
of course.
Golden
Of
State
course you do,
Warriors
Marsh.
took down the Houston Rockets. Huge night for both Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. That gets them a little bit of breathing room, Rick, for the 10th
Yeah.
spot in the play-in. And there's a chance they could try to rise up to 9. Of course, I think you want to get to that 8 spot, but a huge win for Golden State last night in what I think was kind of foretold when Tari Eason decided to start poking fun at the Warriors come out to play. You don't poke fun at a man as petty as Steph Curry, Rick.
I I do agree with that sentiment. That was a cute gesture by Tari, but probably not the right time. You keep that straight covered until after the game is won by your team, and then you show everyone what you were winning. Of course, everyone knows that Marsh's team is Golden State. I'm a Houstonian, and we're both fighting for our playoff lives. And we do not own the tiebreaker. Golden State does, and that was a good win by a veteran team last night. So we still have a chance. We have to win 5 out of our last 6, which is possible. The Warriors have to lose 5 of their last 6, which I don't know if that's possible. But yeah, so hey, I'm proud of my guys. Young team. They fought and they've shown that they're not a cellar dweller. And so, this was a lesson learned. Tari, that's cool, Tari. It's a lesson learned from everybody. But the Warriors are still have phenomenal players, and they came through when their team needed the most with the win. So, but I'm proud of my guys. So they made good effort in a
I
good
don't.
season.
I think Tari Eason's just been hanging out with Dylan Brooks too much. Clearly,
It's
'cause
possible.
that this is the same stuff that the Memphis Grizzlies did a couple seasons ago. There's just guys you don't go after. Now, Jokic, I think is will eventually. He's at that point, but I don't think anybody cares enough to go after him. Just I think his personality, but the number of
I don't
young
think he
players
cares.
that too, because he's just gonna be well. It doesn't matter what you say. I'm still gonna go for 30 and 13 when I need to. So no big
and
deals
and talk
here.
about and talk about my horses. So he
And
doesn't
get
really
back to
care
my.
at all.
I just got to get to the
Yeah,
track. I mean, at
right.
the end of the day, that's what I'm worried about if I'm Jokic. But I mean, come on. There's got to be some. The rookie handbook in the NBA needs to say, when you are chasing down an elite player, keep your mouth shut because it's not even Houston had won I think eight or nine straight games at that time, and they were catching up. But it wasn't even against Golden State. If you had done that tonight or last night, you beat the Warriors, then you do it. Okay, you know what? Props to you.
Hmm.
You got it. But doing it preemptively, this is a team that's fighting. I mean, all the lashing out from Draymond Green is a clear sign that this team understands their mortality and the dynasty's end is closer than its beginning, which shouldn't come as any surprise. This team needs every little piece of motivation they could possibly get because they are desperately trying to avoid falling out of the play-in a year in which one, the draft class isn't that great, and two, they don't even own their own pick unless it lands in the top 4. This team needs every little bit of motivation they can possibly get, especially in the doldrums of an or SWBA season. The tail end of it when it's you've been playing for 70 games, 65 games. The light is close at the end of the tunnel for the postseason, but it's not quite there. And they lit the fire. And then, of course, Tari Eason
Yeah.
wore the shirt that said Warriors come out to play last night. And they came out to play, and they walked away with a 23-point victory. And Steph was there. Game and a half back now of the Lakers for 9. Well, I think we've done this conversation, Rick. I don't think either of us really buy the fact that the Warriors or Lakers could win a title here, but
No.
the pedigree is obviously fully in place. Golden State now is a shot. It's a distant one, but to potentially rise up to either 8, maybe 7 if the wheels really fall off Zion. He's out with a finger. He's day to day. Let's go to a team that got the wheels back on last night, ever so slightly, and one that's tumbling. Knicks rally from 21 down to beat the Kings. This is a big day for the Knicks last night. They lose Julius Randle for the season, shoulder surgery, and they rally back and get a huge win over a Kings team that has really scuffled, facing their own injury concerns of that roster. Bigger night here. Was it more impactful that the Knicks won or worse that the Kings lost?
I think it's more that the Knicks won. The Kings team, this Kings team has kind of showed us last few years that they are a team that's on the rise. You mentioned about the injuries and things like that. That's something that's part of the game of basketball. But, the Knicks losing their one of their best players in Julius Randle, and rallying and being down to, look, when you're down 21, when there's 5 games left in the season, when you lost one of your top players, you can easily fold that up. You can fold that game up, but they didn't fold. They came out and they kept fighting. It says a lot about the character of the team, and it says a lot about the coaching staff and the village and those guys believing in themselves. Being down by a very talented Kings team, they got the win back at home. So I think it says a little bit more about the Knicks and their character and their gutsiness to not fold and come out there and keep fighting to get that dub. Those 21-point comeback games are very difficult to do at the tail end of a season because everyone's gassed, everyone's nicked up, and you can just lick your wounds and go home. But New York didn't do that. Tough, gritty basketball game. So kudos to the Knicks for that. Now, come playoff time, they're probably not going to do too much, but, that's another subject for another day.
Well, it's a story of what could be for New York. They looked really great. I think they were 15-2 with OG Anunoby healthy and in that lineup. That would have been a great wing rotation with Anunoby and Julius Randle. But that is another example of the curse of James Dolan continuing to plague the Knicks. The loss does knock the Kings down. They're just a half game up on the Lakers for 8. So what we thought was going to be a Warriors-Lakers play-in game to be eliminated. Maybe not. If the Kings if they keep stumbling, of course, maybe Pelicans could keep rolling down. Like we said, Pelicans have lost 3 in a row.
Let me ask you really quickly, Marsh. I'm sorry, you said something that made me think of something. Is James Dolan the Jerry Jones of SWBA basketball?
I think he's worse because he hasn't. I mean, at least Jerry puts together competent football teams that just get in their own way. The Knicks just can't even get to that. I think the comedy of the Cowboys is that they are a great regular season team, but they just can't ever get it done in the postseason.
But their fan base act like they're gods on the gridiron.
They are one of the best. The Cowboys are one of the best State Farm commercials that we've had, which is the guy with the fishing pole and the dollar bill, and he's hovering it, and he got to be quicker than that. That's the Cowboys. That playoff success is right there in every season. They think they can grab it, and every season they just keep pulling it away because they're never gonna get it. All right, moving on. We have some gridiron talk for you. Anyway, Caleb Williams visits the Bears. We've gone onto this one pretty significantly. Rick, you believed that maybe a chance for Justin Fields still exists. I don't disagree with you on that, at least in Pittsburgh now. But this is done. I think this has been done. Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick in the SWFL draft. I think we've known that since the season ended. It was just the theater of pretending that maybe Justin Fields sticks around, but that theater has been closed for quite some time, and Caleb Williams is going to be the Bears quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm great. I'm glad for Justin Williams. I mean, for Caleb, Justin Fields. I'm ecstatic for him in Pittsburgh. And, Caleb Williams is going to be number 1 pick for the Chicago Bears. I feel bad for Caleb Williams, and I'm going to tell you why. Not because he's going to be the number 1 pick. That's a fantastic feat. But because he's going to the Chicago Bears. Think about this, Marsh. In the history of the Chicago Bears, what quarterback have they produced and made above average? The answer:
Rex Grossman.
If Rex Grossman is the best quarterback you've ever produced, in your franchise history, my mans, you are in trouble. It tells me as a franchise, you have the inability to take a talent quarterback or draft a talent quarterback and do anything with him. Jay Cutler was a very good example. Someone with a lot of talent that kind of just flamed it out. So Caleb Williams is going to Chicago Bears. Kudos to him for going to Chicago, but death to Caleb Williams as a Chicago Bear because it's probably not going to end well. No quarterback in Chicago history has become a very good quarterback while being a Chicago Bear. Well, history says what history says. None.
Here's the thing, and this is what I think I've said this one before. Here's my challenge with using history as our guide, is that the people involved at every stage of history are not the same, right? Outside of the owner, but if you are correct, they have not done a phenomenal job in hiring pieces that have been successful. What I will say is this: I think that their front office is much better than the ones that developed, drafted, and built around the predecessors to Caleb Williams. But they've also made a significant investment in adding talent to this roster. The addition of Keenan Allen, I think, is not insignificant. Allen had his career year last season for the Chargers in this disturbing trend of good football teams moving away from good wide receivers next to a good quarterback. As now Justin Herbert is left in the void of the San Diego aftermath to play in LA, but at least they are investing in pieces around Caleb Williams in ways that, let's use the Carolina Panthers, have not yet done around CJ Stroud, around Bryce Young. The Texans are making that investment around CJ Stroud. That matters. Now, there's obviously the chance that Keenan Allen does not remain healthy, and the pieces, DJ Moore can't do what he did last season, but at least they are investing in pieces around him. I don't know that the Bears, with all of their other quarterbacks, made that type of investment to say, ahead of time, let's add pieces, let's add a good running game, let's add good offensive line, let's add good wide receiver play, and then we drop the quarterback in, because we've seen what happens when teams make the quarterback investment first and then try to do everything else. If the right quarterback is there for you, then you make that decision, right? The Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence, the Texans with CJ Stroud, and now obviously with the Bears. But if you're just going to get a quarterback and drop him into a situation that's going to be absolutely terrible for him, which it seems like the Patriots might be going this route of not adding a quarterback to a roster that's not ready to build a good quarterback, that's where you have your challenges. And I would just give the Bears credit for actually making the investment now in the other pieces that they have, as opposed to just saying, well, let's hope we figure this thing out. Let's head to SimWorld Prep, where Heartland Zombie Stars are 1.5 games back of Cascadia in what I find is a very fascinating piece here, where you've got, so just to level set everything, the race to 1 will be a March Madness type of environment, in that the number 1 seeds for the 4 regions will be broken up into 4 regions. It's different regions we're talking, right? Regions being divisions in the first half, regions being geographical ones otherwise. Cascadia, 16-7, has 3 games on Heartland Zombie Stars. That would be a number 1 seed. Do you think Heartland can catch up to them and take them down and try to grab a number 1 seed in the race to 1?
Can they? Yes. Will it happen? I'm not sure. I don't think it. And if I'm Coach Lovelace, I don't know if it even matters for Heartland. They are a defensive-minded team, and guess what, Mark? Defense travels, baby. Number 1 seed, number 12 seed, number 14 seed, Johnny Apple seed. It doesn't matter. If you play defense, you can play defense anywhere, and Heartland is built on defense. So I don't think to them it matters much because defense travels well.
Well, of course, everyone's going to be on the road, right? We're all going to be in Texas for the race to 1, so everyone's defense will have to travel. I still like Cascadia to walk out of that region as the number 1 team heading into the race to 1. The talent level, I think, is there, obviously. Heartland has got the top-end talent with Benari James to match the top-end talent of Kevon Jackson with Cascadia, but it's the rest of the roster. That's not to discredit the depth of Heartland, but it's more so that Cascadia is just so deep. They have so many great players that they can turn to. They have second and third options on their roster. That could probably be 1 to 2 options on other rosters. They should be considered a very viable threat. They have the tied for the second most wins in the league at 16 with Philadelphia and the Originators. That's not to say Heartland isn't a good basketball team. It's just that Cascadia has already stockpiled the wins that get them there. Now, they're tied in the loss column. That's not insignificant, which means Heartland's got a couple in the bag with 3 fewer games played thus far. So there's room to make up for Heartland very quickly. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I would be stunned if they ended up, or I'd be impressed. Let's not go stunned. Stunned means like seems like you don't think it could happen. Impressed if Heartland ended up surpassing Cascadia there for the number 1 seed, heading into the race to 1. That is our week. We are back next week with games after the hiatus of SimWorld Prep, spring break across the country, so kids getting an opportunity to spend some of that time with family and friends. We are back next week, though, on Tuesday with a triple header, so make sure you are tuning in there. We, of course, will be back on Monday with SimWorld Today. B-Ron will make his return appearance on Monday morning. So thank you all for joining us. Have a phenomenal weekend. Thank you, Rick, for popping in, and we will talk to you all next week.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.